We often look at a Japanese teenager quietly bowing to their elders and wonder what kind of magic happened during puberty. We assume it is strict discipline. We think there must be a secret rule book handed out on their 13th birthday. But the truth is much quieter. They did not do anything magical at age 15. The secret actually lies in how a parent handled the tears, the screaming, and the floor-kicking tantrums of a 3-year-old child a decade earlier. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a brightly lit supermarket. Your toddler is lying on the cold tile floor, screaming at the top of their lungs because you refuse to buy a blue plastic toy. An older woman pushing a cart stops and stares. In that moment, your heart races. You feel an overwhelming urge to grab your child's arm, lower your voice into a harsh whisper, and shut the tantrum down immediately just to prove to the stranger that you are in control. You think that if you do not punish this behavior right now, your child will grow up to be a disrespectful teenager. But let us step back and look at the first pillar of early development, which is the power of the pause. In many traditional Japanese households, when a child throws a massive tantrum, the parent does not immediately rush in to crush the emotion. They do not yell. They observe. The toddler's prefrontal cortex, the logical part of the brain, is entirely offline. Their tiny nervous system is completely overloaded by the fluorescent lights, the noise of the store, and the crushing disappointment of a denied toy. They are drowning in a storm, and they desperately need to borrow your calm to find the shore. Taking a 5-second pause before reacting does not mean you are surrendering to a toddler. It means you are recognizing that true discipline begins with safety, not fear. When you just stand there, breathing softly, waiting for the peak of the storm to pass, you teach them something profound. You teach them that their biggest, ugliest emotions will not make your love disappear. The teenager respects the parent because the parent respected their emotional storm as a toddler. Now, let us move from the public eye into the quiet space of a living room at dusk for the second pillar. Your baby is crying, their tiny body stiff and arching backward. You are exhausted. You start bouncing them rapidly, walking fast across the rug, shushing loudly in their ear. But the faster you move and the louder you speak, the harder they cry. We naturally believe we must act urgently to fix the crying. Yet, children do not learn emotional regulation through rushed movements or long, frantic explanations. They learn through a biological process called co-regulation. They mirror the physical state of the adult holding them. If your heart is pounding and your breath is shallow, their brain registers danger. This is the concept of slowing down the room. Instead of sweeping them up in a panic, a gentle parent might sit down on the sofa. They drop their shoulders. They deepen their breathing until their chest rises and falls in a slow, rhythmic motion. They lower their voice to a soft hum. When the parent slows down, the entire room slows down. The child's breathing eventually catches the rhythm of yours. Japanese teens do not disrespect their parents because they were raised in an environment where parental self-control was physically modeled daily, long before words were even understood. As that baby grows into a toddler, we face the third pillar, the respectful boundary. Suddenly, your sweet 2-year-old says no to absolutely everything. They rip their arm away when you try to put on their jacket. They fight you over a red cup. Society tells us this is defiance and a direct challenge to our authority. But look closer at what is happening inside their developing mind. They are tiny beings in a massive world where adults dictate when they eat, sleep, and move. Saying no is not about disrespecting you. It is a desperate attempt to hold on to a tiny fragment of control over their own physical body. This introduces the practice of respectful caregiving. Imagine a father kneeling down to eye level before picking his child up in a busy playground. He says, "I am going to pick you up now to put on your shoes," giving the child a 2-second warning to process the transition. He gently announces, "I need to wipe your face now," before coming at them with a cold, wet cloth. The boundary is still firm. The shoes will go on, and the face will be wiped, but the boundary is wrapped in immense warmth and dignity. When you treat a toddler's body with respect, you are wiring their brain to understand mutual respect. A teenager honors boundaries because boundaries were introduced to them with grace, not hostility. Let us follow this child as they enter the preschool years. You pick them up from the classroom. The teacher smiles and says they were an angel all day. They shared their toys, sat quietly during story time, and followed every single rule. You feel so proud. But the moment you buckle them into the car seat and close the door, the explosion happens. They scream because the sun is too bright. They cry because you gave them the wrong snack. They cling to your shirt when you get home and whine relentlessly. This is the fourth pillar, the safe harbor. It is so easy to feel defeated and assume your child is manipulating you or saving their worst behavior just to punish you. Your partner might even mention from the kitchen that the child is getting spoiled. But science tells a beautifully different story. All day long, that little child worked incredibly hard to keep their impulses in check. They held back tears when another kid took their block. Their cortisol levels slowly built up over hours of navigating the complex social world of a classroom. When they see you, their ultimate safe base, the dam breaks. In many cultures, including Japanese parenting, the home is revered as an absolute sanctuary for emotional discharge. That meltdown in the hallway is actually the highest form of praise. It translates to, "Mom, I am finally safe enough to fall apart." If you punish this release of tension, you teach them to hide their struggles. When a parent calmly anchors them through this storm, they build a bridge. The respectful teenager is born from a child who never had to hide their hardest, ugliest emotions from their parents. They know they can always come home when the world gets too heavy. Finally, we reach the fifth pillar, the art of the apology. Picture a 4-year-old child standing in the living room with a broken toy in their hands. They threw it in a moment of pure frustration. You demand that they look you in the eye and say they are sorry right now. But they press their lips together, cross their arms, and refuse to speak. Many parents panic here. We fear that if they do not apologize immediately, we are raising an arrogant and remorseless human being. But forcing a young child to apologize while they are still flooded with adrenaline does not teach empathy. It only creates a very skilled liar who learns to say empty words just to escape your anger. Their prefrontal cortex is not mature enough to process complex logic and empathy while they are in a state of high emotional arousal. This is where the concept of connection before correction changes everything. Instead of forcing a fake apology, a gentle parent focuses on the feeling first. You might say, "You were really angry that the tower fell down." You name the emotion so they do not have to act it out. More importantly, the deepest lesson in respect comes from the parent's own humility. There will be days when you lose your temper, raise your voice, and shatter the peace of your own home. A child does not need a perfect parent who is always right. They need a real parent who is brave enough to sit on the edge of their bed, look them in the eyes, and say, "I am so sorry I yelled at you earlier. I was feeling overwhelmed, but it was not okay to take it out on you." Japanese teens often show deep reverence for their parents because that exact humility was modeled for them first. They respect adults who are not afraid to admit their own mistakes. Respect is never something you can forcefully extract from a 15-year-old. It is a tree that you water from the time they are 3 years old. You water it by how you treat them in the exact moments when they are the hardest to love. It is in the quiet pauses, the lowered voices, and the warm boundaries. If you have ever felt exhausted to your bones but still woke up the next day trying to understand your child better, please know you are doing an incredible job. You are not alone in this beautiful, messy journey. Hit the subscribe button and leave a comment below sharing a moment when you struggled but managed to reconnect with your little one. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned the power of taking a 5-second pause during a tantrum. But there is one critical mistake parents make during this exact pause that actually causes a child to cry twice as hard. What is that silent trigger? Make sure you turn on notifications so you do not miss the answer in our next video.